All right, hello, cheers, Kevin here, and welcome back to Minecraft Agoraphobia, where, I don't know, are we even really playing Minecraft anymore? I'm not entirely sure. I think we're just writing code, really. This is becoming less of a let's play by the day, and more of just I don't know, something else. But that's okay. Yeah, I want to jump back in and try and push through with our oaf project. In the last episode, we set up oaf so that it would clone a repo. We could say clone Giza Kadabi Agoraphobia. And we also set it up so you could say oaf pull from within one of those directories. And that works, and it's very messy, and there's a lot of stuff that we're going to tidy up in here. But why not just go for broke and try and make this even worse? Or at least even messier. Actually, you know what? No, let's oof. Yeah, I think we're going to clean this up first. What I want to do to start, I want to see if we can actually get commits working. But I think in order to do that, we need to clean up some of this mess first. So what we're going to do is it's mostly this poultry function that's messy. And we need to create a separate library that's going to encapsulate the GitHub stuff. Okay? So let's go ahead, and what I want to do, let's see, in SRC, I'm going to create src/lib. There we go. And then I'm going to create github.lua. Okay? So we're going to design a library real quick here. We're going to say local GitHub is this object, and then we will return GitHub at the bottom. And so, cool, right now GitHub does nothing. And now we can think, okay, the stuff that we can actually extract from here is really the part where we say, hey, I need to know about all of the entries in a tree, right? That's the stuff that actually deals with the GitHub API specifically. The fact that we're recursing and that we're writing stuff out to paths, not so much. So let's go ahead and just say function GitHub dot entries in tree, and we'll pass to tree, and then I guess we'll also pass it. Let's see, do we need? Yeah, we do need to pass it. So we'll need to pass it the user and the repo and the tree. Okay, so this will be a function that'll exist, and it's going to handle this whole grabbing the JSON and then pulling the stuff out of the JSON junk that we otherwise would have to worry about. Creating a directory, not part of that, but curling that, and of course we're still relying on external utilities. We'll eventually migrate this into use internal libraries, but that'll be something where we have to diverge from Linux and OpenOS, where the two of those are going to diverge. And so I want to kind of save that to the very end of stuff. Here is where we're just kind of building up these entries. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this in here, and of course I think that's going to be maybe it'll be fine. For blah 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 in iPairs entries. I'm just looking through here to see if there's anything that we need to extract from here. So for JSON entry and blah 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 blah, then we're inserting it into entries, and then we'll just return the entries that we found. Okay, that's fair enough. Now, of course, our implementation details about how we're actually gathering stuff maybe is eventually something that we'll need to extract. I'm not entirely sure about that, but that's okay. So in theory, that gets us the entries in the tree. Let's try to make that work. I'm going to go ahead and require this library. So I'm going to say local GitHub equals require src lib GitHub. And then where did I just steal all this stuff? So we made a directory, and then, yeah, we created entries. So I'll say local entries equals GitHub dot entries in tree, and we have meta dot user meta dot repo, and then SHA of the tree. I suppose, yeah, we should make this SHA, not tree. In fact, I shouldn't have changed. Yeah, this is blah. Oh, and yeah, meta. We need to get rid of those in here because now it's not encapsulated in that object. Okay. Let's see if this still happens to work. I wonder if I still have my command. Aha! I love Vim. Oh no, that's not even the right one. Never mind. That's the wrong one. Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Let's see. Lua. Well, clear and Lua, this current file, clone, KeySQW Agoraphobia. Oh, and we also need to remove recursively Agoraphobia before we clone it. Okay, and cool. That still seems to work, despite the fact that we've moved some of the Git specific stuff out of there into its own library. Of course, it's taking a little bit to pull down all that content, but that's fine. Okay, so now if we look here as well, we still have some Git specific stuff, which I'm less of a fan of. And figuring out exactly how to, let's see. Yeah, let's go ahead and just say, well, let's make a function that does this. So if entry type equals blob, then that means it's a file, not a directory, not a subtree. We're going to go ahead and say github.get blob, and I want to give it the path relative to the top level directory. And then I want to give it well, we'll say repo path and then file path. So what I'm going to be saying is that, hey, I might say github.getBlob readme.markdown, and I'll say to put that into, projects, Agoraphobia, readme.md or whatever. Although I could also just say from the top level, if we're imagining this one, I could say, hey, I want to get, let's see, bin/oaf.lua, and I want you to put it into this place as well. Don't care. So we need to write a library function that will do that. So yeah, get blob is in there. We'll need to define these values. So I'm just going to put it to do here. And let's define this function. So github.getBlob is going to say repo path and so yeah, it gets a repo path and a file path, and it needs to fetch that stuff and put it into the right place. So to do that, well, we're just kind of copying some of this, not all of this, because some of this is inline doing all that. Let's see, repo path. Oh yeah, no, we can't just give it. Can't just do that. We also need to pass it the user and the meta repo. Blech. I don't entirely love that. I wonder, can we? Yeah, I don't think I can serialize functions using the serialization library. So fine, we'll just leave that alone. So here we go, user repo path. So to do that, we just need to wget user/repo. We're going to assume that it's master. We're hard coding things to do all of that. And then after that, repo path. And we're outputting it to, and here we were concatenating the directory and the entry and blah, 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 blah. But here we don't have to worry about it. So this is an overly simplistic way of doing this right now. We'll no doubt make it more complex as time goes on. As time goes by, and now, I regretted this last time I did it. Let's just keep these all the same, on the same line. I have extras here, which I don't want. Okay. We'll keep this on a line, and it'll wrap and be gross until I have an opportunity to fix it up. Okay. And yeah, now I am actually annoyed about the user and repo stuff, so maybe we'll fix that. So then we can get rid of this. The only difference is that we need to pass in repo path needs to be path prefix .entry.path, and then file path needs to be dir/entry.path. Right. Okay. Let's see if that still works. No. Attempt to call string repo path, blah, 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 blah. That's not in here, though. Oops, I think I changed them. Oops, there we go, yep. Repo path. Whoops. Need to concatenate there. Okay. Okay, cool. It's still getting stuff. And I think, just to make this a little cleaner, wget help. wget has a quiet mode, doesn't it? Oh, I'm not even in tmux. That's annoying. Oh, whatever. Maybe get google.com, and can I say shush? I need to put the option before, I think. Shush. Shush. No, that was very not shush. Okay, whatever. I give up. Okay, so now at least this file looks a little bit cleaner. We've split out some of our abstraction, and that's nice. I don't see anything in here that's immediately specific to Git that we need to worry too much about. The other thing that I do want to, I pairs, I think we don't actually. Well, yeah, no, we'll go ahead and do that. Let's see here. Meta equals serialized, unserialized. So I actually do want. So we have our meta table that just has a description of the user and the repo, and that's great and all. I would like our meta table to include a function so that we can just go ahead and access it. Actually, you know what? No, let's do this the easy way. We'll just say project. Well, we'll call this short name equals user, and actually we can just say arg2 because we split it up here. But we have the original. So yeah, we'll go ahead and just save short name, and then we don't have to refer to these two things separately. I think it was important for us to know them independently, but we can modify this to now pass meta.shortname, and let's see, poultry is passing the full meta, so that's fine. Yeah, up here we can do the same thing, meta.shortname, and yeah, okay. I'm feeling better, a little bit better about this. Just need to modify this. Short name here, and short name here. Short name. And then instead of concatenating user and slash and repo, we can just concatenate short name. And boom. And same thing here. And since we're looking in here, I see some repeated lines. Let's go ahead and extract that to a helper function, because why the heck not? We'll say local function. Actually, if it's local, I think we need to put it up here. Local function, parse JSON value, and we're going to give it a string. Well, let's see. Yeah, so some JSON, and then the key that we're looking for. And then we can just extract that match stuff into there. So it would say return JSON match blah, concatenated with the key that you're looking for, and escape that and there. And well, let me just copy this one as an example, and then we'll just modify it, right? That'll be faster in theory. Close that up. Okay. So JSON and then match. This, the only thing, yeah, we just need to replace path with the key that you happen to be looking for. So key there. So just return that, and that sounds great to me. So we'll say parse JSON value, path, type in SHA. Because these are the three things that we actually want to extract from that entry JSON. Okay. Let me just make sure this still works once more. Nope, we have a little problem on line 5. Oh, and let me go ahead and add some commas down here. Oops. There we go. Attempt to concatenate a nil value local key. Oh, whoops. Yeah, we need to pass in entries, JSON entry. And those. Okay, weird thing is now it's saying that GitHub entries and tree is getting, on line 8, it's SHA is not being passed. Did I update entries in tree? Meta short name SHA. Huh. Let's find out why that's not working. Yeah, something poultry, blah 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 blah. Print SHA, please. Master nil. Okay, so somehow that's getting passed incorrectly now. Why should that be the case? Meta entry SHA. Oh, we must not be, yeah, we must not be returning the value correctly. Why should that be the case? Oh, no, 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 no. Ha ha ha. Type SHA. Somehow those all, yeah, that got screwed up. Fair enough. It's a problem with refactoring, is it is entirely possible for you to completely break everything that was working before. But okay, we're back to working. You can stop. Thank you very much. Thank you for all of your hard work. It's very much appreciated. Okay, actually, we should make this local as well. I suppose we should put all of the things that aren't going on to the commands at the top. Those are helpery functions. And okay, so now we come to the question of actually pushing stuff up. And I did find an article from years and years ago about making it commits via the GitHub API, and he kind of goes through walking through that process. So first you get the SHA of the latest commit up on the branch. Then you get the tree information. You create a new tree. So let's see here. Yeah, we create a new tree. So I might say, all right, here was the first tree. Here is a new tree. And I'm going to tell you that, hey, it's got a whole bunch of entries. Just like we had to parse down a whole bunch of entries from a tree, we're going to say, okay, here's a new tree. It should have testfile.txt, and it should have this content in that file. And we can add the modes and the blobs and whatnot. Once we do that, once we've created that tree, we can then create a commit with a message and a reference to the tree that we just created, and a reference to the parent commit. And then we have to update master to point to that new commit as the reference. So that's a long bunch of stuff that we may or may not get to today, but it does mean that this is vaguely doable. The first question we have to ask ourselves, though, is, okay, let's assume that we've made some changes and we want to make a commit. Well, how do we even determine what it is that we want to send? So, yeah. If I run git status, Git is great in that it tells me, hey, you've modified these files, and these are files that aren't even part of the repository right now. I think as much as I would like to have something, the challenge is that for it to even know that we modified this, it's got to do one of two things. It's got to either have a copy of the original or the latest committed version sitting somewhere so it can compare them and say, hey, these files are different. Or what it actually does is it uses that hash to say, it basically will go through and say, hey, this file doesn't match that hash. And there's probably some optimizations of checking timestamps and stuff so that it doesn't have to do extra work or whatever. But basically, that's what it's doing. Every file has a SHA-1 checksum, which changes if you modify the file. And a checksum, the hash function is basically something where you put in a bunch of data and you get a small bit of data out. But if you make a small change to that big amount of data, it's incredibly likely that that small little hash is going to be different, so you can detect that there's a change. And the problem is that SHA-1 isn't something we have access to, so we would need to implement that from scratch. I'm not averse to doing that, but I'm averse to doing that right now because it feels like a bit of a pain in the butt. It's vaguely looking at it, probably bit shifting and stuff and things that we haven't been doing enough stuff with Lua that I really feel like I can knock it out of the park right away. So as much as it pains me, because I love git status as a command, I think we're going to do something kind of cheaty. Well, not cheaty. I think what we're going to do is just say, hey, I'm just going to require you to explicitly add anything that you want changed. Okay? So we're going to add 2 more commands here. And yeah, I'll go ahead and put those in here. I'll say function command dot status. We're going to have the status command. It's just not going to be quite what we want to do. And then I'm going to say command dot add and print to do. Okay, so now if I go ahead and run this, actually we'll eventually have to change that, but that's okay, whatever. Let's go ahead and say Lua add. Let's say to do, and if we say status, it'll also say to do. Okay. So what we're going to do now is basically the status is going to be, so the default status is going to be no changes staged. Okay, so if I go ahead and say, hey, what is the status? It's going to say no changes staged, which means that, hey, if you were going to try and commit right now, I'm going to do nothing because you haven't told me that there are changes to any files that you want me to care about. And we will use add. So I'll say oaf add this file, and then I'll say, oh, cool, I'm going to make those changes. So then if I do say oaf status, it will list out all of the files that I have added. So then it can say, okay, everything in here I am going to commit if you were to go ahead and commit. Of course, this does imply that we'll eventually write oaf commit and oaf push and whatnot. But just getting our changes staged, I think, is going to be possibly a whole video worth of work. We're going to have to see. I'm not positive, but we'll see. So we are going to grab the meta file inside add. And we are going to add another field to it. And I think, yeah, let's go ahead and just say meta. Let's see. Yeah, let me see. Let's pop open real quick. I'm gonna say foo equals this, and can I say if not foo.bar, then foo.bar equals 5, and I think I just did. Cool. Okay, so I can do that. So if not meta.staged. Actually, you know what? I think we should have this here sort of in the in our basic meta template that when we initially created, that's what we'll do. Okay, so then we don't have to worry about setting it if it doesn't exist. So we'll grab the meta, and then we'll say meta dot staged. Yeah, so meta.staged. And we need to add an item to it. So we can, what we could do is just say, so if we think about how we want stage to work, it could be, you know, file 1, file 2, file 3. But then let's assume that I tried to add file 3 twice. We would have to loop through that array to see if any of them match what I'm already looking at. So I think better is to just say, you know, file 1 equals true, file 2 equals true, file 3 equals true. And we can just do that. So the other thing we need here is we actually need to reflect on the arguments. So I need to I need to grab the arg. And then if we run that, that should be arg2 equals true. Okay. So let's go ahead then and we could print arg2 added. I don't know if we actually want to do that. Let's run that though. Lua add. I don't know. Try to concatenate a value outline line 29. What? Oh, right. It's not. Yeah, this is not going to work because it's not in a directory. All right. Remove agoraphobia. Blah 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 blah. Oh, I don't want to remove agoraphobia. Well, let's go ahead and oaf Lua clone ACW agoraphobia. So we have that project to work with, and then we're just not going to remove it for a while because we're not worrying about tearing it down and creating. Okay, and now with that made, let's change the test script that we're running. We will not remove the directory. We'll just go ahead and say, whoops, fine, and Lua this file. Add, and then, I don't know, readme dot markdown. Return 127, why? Oops, I'm sorry, not and. Percent. There you go. Attempt to concatenate a nil value on line 29. Oh, yeah, directory. Oh, right. We're going to do the same. So because we had to override pull to accept a possible argument, so that we could run it even without necessarily being in the right directory. So we could say, hey, pull, but pretend that you're in this exact directory. Okay, let's do that. What? Now, same thing on line 30? What? Dir or oaf? Oh, right, because it does not have that it does not have that directory because we're not running it in that directory. So I don't know what would we do. CD, um, so change directory into Agoraphobia, and then Lua up up a directory and run this command. Maybe. No. Oh man, and then of course src GitHub is going to be a pain in the butt. Okay. That's getting annoying. We'll stick with that, and then I'm just going to say, for now, we'll say Agoraphobia. We'll say the default directory that it's looking in is inside there. Now, okay, so there we go. It says readme added. We can get rid of this to do. Now, one thing we probably ought to do eventually, to do, check if file exists. So readme added, that's great. And I could also say, for example, add bin added. Now, one thing though is that if what we ought to do as well is determine if the argument was a file or a directory. I think we'll make that an enhancement that we can add once we start migrating this into OpenOS, because then we can actually use the file system utility in there. Whereas if we just do stuff now, we're going to be relying on kind of external bash commands, which we'll have to replace anyway. So check if file exists. Let's see. Let's add here. To do features. Check if file exists. If a directory, add everything in that directory. So if I said git add bin, what I'm saying is, hey, every single file inside there, I want you to consider those changes. And then, let's see, there was probably something else. Well, there's not an additional feature, but there is actually the fact that we're not saving the meta. Whoops. So we should do that. Let's go ahead, and because we have reading and writing the meta in multiple locations, I think let's go ahead and write some utility functions. So I'm going to say read meta, or well, let's see, get meta. Dir. Sorry, not local, just local function. Local function get meta. And we'll say local dir equals dir or dot. And then we will just do the unserialize inside here, right? So we're saying get meta, and we're assuming that it's from a .o file in the current directory. We don't have to save it to anything. We can just return serialize, unserialize, reading this directory /o. Cool. Okay. Local set meta though we need to pass the meta, and then optionally a dir as well. And dir equals dir or current directory, and then let's see, serialize. We'll do this. Yeah, in fact, we can take a bunch of stuff out of clone now, which is nice. And of course, I did that whole thing where I forgot to write the function again. Okay, so we don't actually have to do that part. We'll say meta is that. Meta file equals open dir for writing, and then write serialization meta, and then close. Cool. That should do that, and then we can just replace. Oh, what did I just do? Yeah, no, that's right. Then go here and just say this, and so we'll say set meta, and well, let me real quick. Repo. Right. Okay. So set meta. Now we need to pass meta, but we need to pass repo as being the directory in which we want to write it. So there we go. And actually, we can just inline that then, can't we? Yeah. Let's go ahead and do that. Because we're not using it elsewhere. Yeah. So we can go ahead and just say this. That's nice. Look at how beautifully formatted and whatnot that is. Repo. Cool. So set meta in there. Meta equals this. So here we can just say local meta equals get meta, and we can give it dir. And same thing up here. We can say local meta equals get meta dir. And yeah, at the very end here, we actually have to set the meta too. So we added this to staged, but we didn't write out the new version. So we'll go ahead and say set meta, meta dir. Okay. So if I go ahead and run this now and say add readme, it says readme added. Let's verify whether it actually did do that. So if I refresh here, and what was the command to show everything hidden? Uppercase I. There we go. So yeah, there we go. Oh, file. And there we go. Staged now says readme.markdown equals true. Cool. Awesome. So it is now adding those things. So get status should actually be fairly darn easy to write now, because we can just say local. Well, I'm going to do the same hacky thing here for now. We'll eventually remove that. We'll say local meta equals get meta dir. And let's see, we can say if, yeah, we'll say local files equals pairs inside meta changed, sorry, staged. And then we'll say if the length of files equals 0, then we can print no changes staged. Otherwise, we can say for file, and then we don't care about the second value in that pair. In files, do print. We'll do dash, and then file. So if we run this, and I say status, what's it going to tell us? Oh no, attempted to get length of a function value local files. Okay, so this, I don't think this does exactly what I want it to. Oh, you know, we don't have to, yeah, we don't have to do that over pairs. We can just say if the length of files equals 0. Ooh. Actually, can I do meta.staged? I wonder if this is going to be true or false. I don't know, since we're not using numbered, if we're not using array style. No changes staged. Okay. Well, and that would be incorrect. Well, you know, we can do this a dumb-ish way. So for file in files, we'll make this just be top level. Say in, instead of in files, we'll say pairs of meta.staged do. We'll say, yeah, I'm just going to say local any equals false. And inside here, we'll just say any equals true. And then at the end here, we can say if not any, then print no changes. Well, let's print no files staged for commit. Right? That should work. Cool. Okay. Actually, it looks like there is a built-in function called next, which we should be able to call on this thing to determine if there are anything. So we'll say if next meta staged, then we can do this whole for thing, and then we don't need to do this whole any loop. This also lets us determine what we're going to print ahead of time. So we can print files staged for commit. And then here we can just say else. Let's see if that works. There we go. Okay, file staged for commit, and that's great. Except we are getting, yeah, we are doing this whole pairs meta stage thing twice. Well, no, that's fine. Okay. Now, of course, this pales in comparison to what we do if we get status. We'll say changes not staged for commit, untracked files, no changes added to commit, blah, 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 blah. Use git add and or git commit. And if I were to go ahead and say git commit srclib or git add srclib, and then we looked at status, it'd say, hey, there's this new file, there's this blah, 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 blah. So all that wonderful stuff that we don't get. But one thing that we don't get, or that we haven't added yet, so I have this change ready to be committed. Well, what if I want to remove that? I should be able to do that. With git, you say reset, and then that's going to unstage the change. So I want to do the same thing here. And let's go ahead and say function command dot reset. Now, reset is an overloaded command in Git, so we're just gonna replicate the functionality of being able to remove a staged change. So let's see here. Local dir equals arg.dir or agoraphobia fix me. We'll say we'll get the meta, and then we'll say table.remove meta.staged arg2, and then set meta dir. Let's see. Staged for commit. Yeah, set it and then print arg2 unstaged. Or how did Git put it when we said that? Unstaged changes after reset. Well, that's fine. Unstaged is concise, but also works. We should also probably do the exact same utility features there as well. But let's go ahead and give that one a shot. Let's go ahead and say git reset readme.markdown. Add argument to remove number expected but got a string. Oh, shoot. Okay, and actually something that's interesting is, so table remove does work for sequential tables, but does not work with these keyed tables, so that's not going to be a viable strategy, which does have some interesting effects. We're going to go ahead and just say, let's see, meta staged arg2 equals false, or yeah, sorry, equals nil. We're going to set it to nil, which I think means it's still going to be in there. So if we go ahead and remove it, it says it's unstaged. If we look at what's in the file, oh no, it's removed. Okay, nice. So I guess our serialization stuff actually does that for us. Okay, cool. Then we don't have to worry about it. I was afraid it was going to put it in there as explicitly nil, and then we would have to do some filtering when we're actually looking at statuses to say, oh, is this, we need to actually look and say, is it set to true or is it set to nil, and only put out the ones that are set to true and be carrying around garbage. But it looks like the serialization library actually filters out things that are set to nil for us, so hurrah. Now, one more thing that I want to steal from Git quite liberally, I did see people say that they were very excited that we were going to be trying to tackle a version control system from scratch. But that's not really what we're doing. We're building kind of a command line interface that sits sort of in front of some of these ideas. If I go ahead and say git reset without an argument, there we go. It removes absolutely everything that is staged, which I like. So I want to go ahead and set up reset to do that as well, just because I think that is helpful. So let's assume, let's see. So what we can do here is just say if, let's see, arg2, then go ahead and set the past thing. Otherwise, go ahead and say meta, yeah, we can go ahead and just print this out here, even though it's technically earlier than when we're actually doing it. All changes unstaged, or all files unstaged. We can just say meta.staged equals an empty table. Okay, so let's go ahead and run add readme.markdown, readme.markdown stage for commit. If we go status, file stage for commit, readme.markdown. And if I go ahead and say reset, say all files unstaged. And if I go status, no files, stage for commit. Okay. So I think we're actually going to end things there. And I know this is slow going. I understand that may be frustrating for some. It's frustrating for me as well. But we're now at a point where we do know the last thing that we really have to do is deal with the GitHub interaction. In theory, we ought to be able to do something now like add, file one. Oh, you know what we ought to do is let you add an arbitrary number of files. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Well, okay. We can say we'll do it one at a time for now. And I do eventually want to have, git add a directory name mean run add on every file in there. We'll have to work that out. But we can go oaf add file 1. Then we can go ahead and say oaf status to review what's staged. And then we can just say oaf commit, rar, with a message like that, and then oaf push. Although I think we're probably going to combine commit and push, just because since we don't have our own version control system locally, and I don't really want to because file space is kind of at a premium, I think we will just say we're only going to have commit, and committing is automatically going to push things up to GitHub. So we have all of these commands written except for commit. Let's see, now I'm all tempted to start to tackle this. Well, we can at least we'll do some scaffolding, right? Commit. And there's some argument parsing libraries that's available in OpenOS that we're not going to worry about just yet. We are going to need args here. So let's say local meta equals get meta dir. And, we're getting the meta so many times, I kind of wonder if this should be something that we just do generically when we're delegating. If we just pass this in here. Wouldn't be well, I suppose it doesn't make sense for clone, and it would break for clone. So never mind. We won't worry about that. If meta.staged, so if not next in meta.staged, then print no changes to commit. No staged change. No staged changes to commit. And return 1. So say, hey, there wasn't anything for us to do because you haven't added anything. Cool. And then otherwise we can continue. And if we pull up, let me split screen over here. GitHub API commits, blah, 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 blah. So we need to, and this will be a lot of GitHub interaction stuff. So we need to get the SHA, get the SHA of the latest commit on the branch, which we should be able to do pretty easily. We need to create a new tree. We need to create a commit from that tree, and we need to link the commit to the reference. And that is all going to be stuff that mostly exists inside the GitHub library. Actually, so let's change some of these comments to see. I mean, we'll have to write these functions because they don't exist, but let's assume that they exist so that, next video me can have to, at least know what we're supposed to be doing. Let's just say, if we look down at the example, so the reason, these exist for reasons. So the base tree is the SHA of the last commit, which honestly, I feel like we shouldn't even have to, we should be getting that at some other, well, okay. So one thing that I'm thinking about is that we do want to make sure that we're not trying to, if we haven't pulled down all of the latest changes, that we're not doing anything too crazy. We're not dealing with merge conflicts at all. So I guess fine. GitHub get latest commit. So local SHA equals GitHub get latest commit. And then, so that'll be something that we have to write at the GitHub side. We need to create a tree. So we'll say local tree equals GitHub.create tree. And this is going to be something we need to pass. Get latest commit is going to need to go meta shortcode. It's going to need to know the repository that we're talking about. So we'll have to create a repository for, the tree is going to need to know about that too. And we're going to pass down, we're going to need to build up all of the entries, I guess. Let me see. So let's say local entries is that, and then we'll say for, let's say file, blah, in pairs of meta staged, do, and we'll have to say table.insert into entries, a new object that is basically the equivalent of this here. So it'll need to have a path, which is equal to, well, I guess it's just, yeah, it is the file. Well, I guess, yeah, the path is here. So path, and it'll have the, we can hard code that mode for now. 100644. Type is going to equal blob, because we're only going to be passing up blobs. I think this implies that there are we can just imply folders rather than having to create subtrees and whatnot like we had to do before. And then content is going to be the tricky one. This is going to be io dot open path read all. The challenge here is I don't know if we're going to run into memory issues because we're reading all of the files into memory to construct this. So we may need to break our commits up into smaller chunks. Ugh, that sounds gross. But okay, in theory, that's building up a Lua representation of the contents that we need to pass in here. So then we should be able to say something like, well, we'll let GitHub care about the shape of this. We will pass it. Yeah, I don't think we even need to tell it to get the latest commit. I think the GitHub library, when we say we're creating a tree, it can assume that we're creating a tree off of the master branch. So all we need to do is say create a tree for these entries that we want to create. And yeah, so it'll go ahead and do that. And then the response back has the details of the tree that was created. So it will give us back, yeah, it has those details, and that's great. It will give us a SHA for that tree. Then we need to commit, and then we need to link. You know, I feel like this is all stuff that will exist inside GitHub. So in theory, we could do, okay, so the tree is that, and that gives us a SHA. So then we'll say, you know, local commit equals GitHub dot create commit based on this tree. And then we would say, you know, GitHub set master to commit. But really, this is all stuff that could be encapsulated inside GitHub, because this is all details of how GitHub's API happens to work. So let's, I'm just going to rename this. I'm going to say this changes, and just because I think that is a better name, I'm just going to say GitHub, GitHub.commit changes. And that'll be a library that does multiple, a function in the library that has to do multiple things. But yeah, we are definitely running interesting on time. I need to make sure that I leave myself enough time to actually edit these things down as well. This one clearly isn't going to work yet because we have stuff that we will need to write in a future episode. But I hope you have enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts and stuff in the comments. I definitely enjoy reading those, and I appreciate you taking the time. And I will see you next time. Cheers.